The hidden impact of microplastics in our soil. A growing concern. Seedling hook statement. We are surrounded by plastic, from the packaging of everyday products to the synthetic fibers in our clothes. As a society, we've become increasingly aware of the threats posed by plastic pollution in our oceans and on our streets. But there's a less visible crisis unfolding beneath our feet: microplastics in our soil. These tiny particles, which have been found in agricultural lands, forests, and even the most remote ecosystems, are silently disrupting the natural processes that sustain life. The reality of microplastic contamination in soil is alarming, and the long-term consequences could be far-reaching, affecting everything from soil health to food security. Introduction. Microplastics are small plastic particles typically defined as being less than 5 millimeters in size. Their pervasive presence in the environment is a result of the degradation of larger plastic items or direct addition of microplastics into various ecosystems, including soils. While much of the attention surrounding microplastics has focused on their impact on marine ecosystems, the hidden contamination of terrestrial environments is an emerging issue that warrants immediate action. Soils, which are fundamental to agriculture and biodiversity, are becoming polluted with microplastics, potentially harming the very foundation of life on Earth. The implications of microplastic pollution in soil are not just confined to environmental damage but extend to human health, agricultural productivity, and ecological integrity. This article aims to shed light on the hidden impact of microplastics in soil, examine the sources and pathways of contamination, and discuss the potential long-term effects on ecosystems and food systems. Understanding microplastics. What are microplastics? Microplastics are tiny plastic particles that result from the degradation of larger plastic items or are deliberately manufactured as small particles. These particles are generally classified into two categories. Primary microplastics. These are small plastic particles intentionally produced for use in products such as cosmetics, cleaning products, or industrial abrasives. Examples include microbeads used in personal care products and plastic pellets used in manufacturing processes. Secondary microplastics. These arise from the breakdown of larger plastic debris, such as plastic bags, bottles, or synthetic fibers. Environmental exposure to ultraviolet, UV, light, wind, and mechanical forces causes these larger plastics to degrade into smaller particles, eventually becoming microplastics. Microplastics can be found in a variety of shapes, sizes, and chemical compositions, but they all share one common characteristic: their persistence in the environment. Unlike organic materials, plastics do not biodegrade, which means they can remain in the environment for hundreds, if not thousands, of years. Microplastics in soil. Recent studies have highlighted the presence of microplastics in soils, with alarming concentrations being reported in agricultural lands, urban areas, and even remote forests. These particles can enter soils through a variety of pathways: agricultural inputs, the use of sewage sludge as fertilizer, the application of plastic mulch films, and the deposition of microplastics via irrigation water are all significant contributors to microplastic contamination in agricultural soils. Atmospheric deposition. Microplastics can also be transported through the air, settling onto the soil from the atmosphere. This is especially true for urban areas where plastics are present in large quantities. Runoff and erosion. Rainwater can wash microplastics from urban and industrial areas into nearby agricultural fields or natural habitats, further spreading contamination. The presence of microplastics in soil has sparked concerns among scientists and environmentalists because soil ecosystems play a crucial role in supporting plant growth, regulating water cycles, and maintaining biodiversity. Once these microplastics enter the soil, they can accumulate over time, leading to long-term contamination. The effects of microplastics on soil health. Soil health is a complex and delicate balance of physical, chemical, and biological properties that supports plant life and soil organisms. The introduction of microplastics into this system can disrupt various soil functions, leading to harmful consequences for agriculture and ecosystems. 1. Soil structure and porosity. Microplastics can affect the physical properties of soil, particularly its structure and porosity. Studies have shown that microplastics can alter soil texture by reducing the overall porosity of soil. This reduction in porosity can impede water infiltration, leading to surface water runoff and reduced moisture retention. Additionally, compacted soils with reduced porosity are less conducive to root growth, which can directly impact plant productivity. 2. Soil fertility and nutrient cycling. The presence of microplastics can interfere with nutrient cycling within the soil. Microplastics may alter the availability of essential nutrients like nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium by influencing microbial activity. Soil microorganisms play a critical role in decomposing organic matter and facilitating nutrient uptake by plants. However, microplastics may disrupt microbial communities by either absorbing toxic chemicals or altering the habitat of these organisms. This disruption could lead to decreased soil fertility and lower agricultural productivity. 3. Toxicity and chemical leaching. Microplastics are often coated with toxic substances such as pesticides, heavy metals, and persistent organic pollutants, POPs, from the surrounding environment. When these microplastics enter the soil, these toxic substances can leach into the soil, posing a threat to both soil organisms and plants. In particular, earthworms and other soil fauna that rely on healthy soils for survival may ingest microplastics, leading to potential bioaccumulation and long-term health impacts. Additionally, microplastics could serve as vectors for the spread of harmful chemicals in the soil, further complicating the issue. 4. Impact on soil fauna. Soil organisms, such as earthworms, insects, and microorganisms, are essential to maintaining soil health and ecosystem functions. However, these organisms are increasingly coming into contact with microplastics as they ingest or encounter these particles in the soil. Earthworms, for example, have been found to consume microplastics, which can cause physical harm, disrupt digestive processes, and even lead to death in extreme cases. Additionally, microplastics can alter the composition of soil microbial communities, further disrupting ecosystem functions. The implications for agriculture and food security. The contamination of soil with microplastics poses significant risks to global food systems. Healthy soils are the foundation of agricultural productivity, and when these soils are compromised by microplastic pollution, the impact on food security could be profound. 1. Reduced crop yields. The disruption of soil structure, fertility, and nutrient availability can result in decreased crop yields. When plants are unable to access the nutrients they need due to altered microbial activity or reduced water retention in the soil, their growth is hindered, and agricultural output can suffer. In extreme cases, long-term exposure to microplastics could lead to soil degradation and reduced land productivity. 2. Potential for microplastics in the food chain. Another critical concern is the potential for microplastics to enter the human food chain. As microplastics accumulate in soil, plants may absorb these particles through their roots. In turn, animals that feed on these plants or consume contaminated soil may also ingest microplastics. This bioaccumulation could eventually lead to humans consuming microplastics through the consumption of contaminated crops, livestock, or fish. Although the full health impacts of ingesting microplastics are still being studied, early research suggests that microplastics may be associated with various health problems, including inflammation, hormone disruption, and even cancer. 3. Economic consequences for farmers. Farmers who rely on healthy, fertile soils for crop production may face economic losses as a result of microplastic contamination. Reduced crop yields and the potential need for remediation of polluted soils could increase costs for agricultural production. Furthermore, the growing awareness of the risks posed by microplastics may lead to regulatory changes that require farmers to implement costly mitigation measures or adjust their practices to reduce plastic use. Addressing the issue of microplastics in soil. 1. Research and monitoring. To effectively tackle the issue of microplastics in soil, it is essential to first understand the extent of the problem. Research into the sources, pathways, and impacts of microplastics in soil must be prioritized. This includes conducting large-scale surveys to monitor microplastic concentrations in different environments and assessing their long-term impacts on soil health, agriculture, and ecosystems. Monitoring systems should also be developed to track microplastic levels over time and inform future management practices. 2. Reducing plastic use. One of the most effective ways to reduce microplastic contamination in soils is by addressing the root cause, the overuse of plastics. Efforts should be made to reduce the production and consumption of single-use plastics, especially in industries that contribute to microplastic pollution, such as agriculture and manufacturing. Using alternative materials, such as biodegradable or organic plastics, and promoting sustainable practices can help reduce the amount of plastic waste that ends up in the environment. 3. Sustainable agriculture practices. Farmers can play a key role in minimizing microplastic pollution by adopting sustainable practices. Reducing the use of plastic-based products, such as plastic mulches, and switching to organic or biodegradable alternatives can help reduce the amount of microplastics entering the soil. Additionally, farmers should consider using natural fertilizers and reducing the use of sewage sludge, which may contain high levels of microplastics. 4. Remediation and cleanup. As microplastic contamination in soil continues to grow, efforts must be made to develop effective remediation strategies. Techniques such as soil washing, bioremediation, and phytoremediation, using plants to absorb or degrade pollutants, hold potential for removing microplastics from contaminated soils. Research into these methods should be prioritized to find scalable and cost-effective solutions for cleaning up microplastic pollution. Call to action. The hidden impact of microplastics in our soil is an urgent issue that demands immediate action. From disrupting ecosystems and agricultural productivity to posing potential risks to human health, microplastic contamination in soil has far-reaching